introduce herself first, but, oh, there she is. Great, perfect timing. Okay. Oh, we have about a minute. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. So the Glen Cove Community Association has 2 community meetings a year, and this is our second, the one for autumn, and we are using it as a candidate forum, which has been done in the past. And before we get started, I want to introduce the people who are here. We also have, I guess, only one of the 2 organizations that I was expecting here. The Humane Society might be tabling later, but we have the Cultivate Community Food Co-op. They've spoken here before. They have information if you want to go to the table and look at their handouts. We also have our membership coordinator, who is one of our board members, Board Stewart. There's information about joining the Glen Cove Community Association at the low, low price of $20 a year.
Or 15 tonight.
Oh, 15 tonight. What a bargain. So, I'll quickly do an introduction of all of the board members that are here. I'm Joseph Hayden, current president of the Glen Cove Community Association. Let's see, so I introduced Ward. Pat Tomasello, who is our secretary. She lives in Quiet Harbor. Also, full disclosure, 2 of the candidates tonight are on the board. Andrea Source is on the board of Glen Cove, so that's one of the candidates. And Tanya Ledeshu is also on the board. Did I say your name there, right? Good, good. Then I have Christine Gibson there. She's going to be taking our time, so you'll be hearing her yell out when people are she also has signs for 30 seconds and 1 minute. Okay? And that goes for when we have our open questions as well. I'll explain that in a minute. Then we have Lisa Williamson there in the back. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Satish Chauhan is right here. All right. And then Inez, mine is right there. And Suki Lavau is over there. And Sam Levis is over there. And I know Neil Zimmerman is there. Jay Frost. Neil Zimmerman. And our Vice President, Ralph Marsfall, is there. Did I get everyone? Okay. All right. So, the format that we're going to do tonight is that we have one person who's on the ballot for City Council for District 3. That's Tanya Ledeshu. And she is going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then she can take questions from the audience. There's a microphone there that people can go up to. And then, in fact, Tanya, I'll give you this microphone for you to use. And then if people have questions when you're ready after you do your introduction, they can go and use that microphone. So if Christine can time that for 15 minutes, then the format will be that we'll save 30 minutes for audience questions directly to the 4 mayoral candidates who I should introduce. And after 30 minutes of those questions, we'll have 60 minutes of prepared questions if we have enough. And then we'll go back to audience questions. The candidates will have 2 minutes to respond each to any of the questions. And I think that's all we need to know. Also, if there's extra time at the end, we can have rebuttals. And, one other thing important. After Tanya finishes of the mayoral candidates will have, how much should I say, 3 minutes each to do your introductory statements, all right? All right, with no further ado, here is Tanya Ledeju.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out today to hear from all of us, myself and all the mayoral candidates as well. And my name is Dr. Tanya Ledeju, and I have 3 decades of public service. I have worked for the state of California. I have worked at local government as well. And currently today, I am the CEO of the Housing Authority for the City and County of San Francisco, where I manage over $450 million in subsidy annually for housing for over 18,000 individuals with a $10 billion capital project fund as well. I have spent the better half of my career in the City and County of San Francisco. Prior to going to the Housing Authority, I was the city auditor for the City and County of San Francisco. So where I have audited every department there, we have 54 departments. I understand how to grab federal dollars as well as state dollars and local dollars to do the work that needs to be done. I'm really proud to say that most of my work, I've spent all my career in public service, and I am truly committed to this community because I believe that every individual that lives in our city has a right to thrive. I believe that every individual in our city, whether you are newborn or whether we are aging, that we have to have a place here where we feel safe. We have to have a place here where our unhoused are able to have a place to live. We need to have affordable housing that takes into consideration every economic status ladder within our community. And we need to have economic opportunity. And that doesn't just mean building, but that means livable wage jobs so that so we as a community don't have to shuttle ourselves out of our city day in and day out. I have gotten up at 4 in the morning and at times not returned home until late, 11, 12 o'clock, doing what I needed to do from a work perspective. So how can we bring livable wage jobs here? And in order to have our services to be robust and so forth and on, what we really need to do is ensure that our government is well run. It is very important. That is what underpins where we can go, and that we have a policing department that is policing from a community aspect, that is compassionate, that is caring, that understands their biases, understands the importance of oversight, understands the importance of engagement, understands community, and understands transparency. So with that, I'll close that first introduction of myself. So I think it's really important, I'm the only candidate, and I think it's really important that we have dialogue, that we have an opportunity, if you would, to ask me questions, and if not, I can share further. But I'm quite sure there are some questions in this room. I can't imagine there's not.
Anybody have questions for our future council member?
I'll start.
Thanks. I bet everybody can hear me without this. So I just wondered what your priorities would be when you first got into office, assuming that you win the election.
Thank you for that. So let's be a little transparent. Ron and I know each other. He works in our city in housing. So my priorities are, as I stated earlier, is having a well-run city. And we have to understand our budget first. And our budget needs to reflect what our mission is for our city, what our vision is for our city. And I have talked to many individuals in this community and throughout the entire community of Vallejo. And the thing that I hear the most is, I don't feel safe. And we need to work to ensure that our police department has enough personnel. But in order to do that, we need to also work on our consent and decree. The city is currently working on hiring a chief of police. And and I'm quite sure you've read the newspaper. We've had some issues regarding that, but I don't need to comment on it. There's lots of comments around it. And so we need to look at how are we going to build a community policing model that works for this community. And as I said earlier, in order to have a community policing model that will work for this community, it means that our policing department must be transparent in its policies and ensure that its staff are trained in those policies, and when there are violations regarding those policies, we need to have discipline in those areas. We need to understand how to work collaboratively with our communities in solving the issues that we're addressing as it relates to crime. And so that is fundamentally one of my priorities, is what is our budget really saying to us to determine how much money we really can spend in the various areas, especially in policing.
Hi, I'm Sue, Dr. Sue. I live right here. And it's a naive question. Would you be quitting your very high-powered sounding job to come and work here?
So, being on city council is not a full-time position, and as a matter of fact, it doesn't even pay minimum wage, to be very frank about it. And so I will, to your question, I will not be quitting my job at the City and County of San Francisco, but what I will share with you, I have the capacity to make the commitment needed to ensure that I am serving each and every one of you with excellence, as well as continuing to do the work that I do in the City and County of San Francisco. I will also let you know that prior to being able to begin this run, I had to sit down with my mayor, who I report directly to discuss how I will maintain the commitment that I've made as a department head, along with serving my community. It's time that I serve my community. I've been serving the City and County of San Francisco for 15 years, and I want to bring what I possess and share here in my community and invest in my community.
Hi, I'm Candace Lee. Quick question. You said bring high-paying, livable wage jobs to this area. Can you kind of elaborate? How are you going to attract the employers? How are you going to help them attract and retain employees from this area?
So one of the things that I've talked about first is safety. And the first thing that we must do is deal with our policing and stabilize our policing so that we can attract businesses. And I will tell you, I've talked to individuals in this community who have either been prior business owners or business owners, and I've talked and said, with where we are with our safety, would you bring your business here? No. And so we have to work on safety in order to attract the types of businesses that we need in our community to have a thriving economic base to work from. And that is first and foremost.
Hi. What are your plans on getting just the police department up to staff? I love the goals, but until there's enough policemen, the goals are nice, but we need more cops on the street.
So currently the City Council has been working on negotiating at different fronts. Our Senator Dodd has been able to bring forward a bill to our governor about retired annuitant sheriff officers and the potential of removing that requirement. I think it's retired annuitants can't work more than 960 hours or so. And so by removing that requirement, then we can have potential sheriffs who have been retired come in and assist us for the next 1 or 2 years, because it virtually takes almost 18 months to get an officer through the process. Another idea that is floating on City Council is also being able to bring back retired police officers into the force who have certain levels of experience to work on investigations and so forth and on while we are doing the recruiting, so we have enough police officers on force. An additional thing that is being talked about is literally using the sheriff's department, and it is really it's very costly. I think it's to the tune of $800,000 to $1 million or so, I'm not quite sure. So there are some things that are floating around, and I'm not sure what will be resolved by the time I get there or one of these individuals get there. But I definitely have a commitment of how are we going to work through these different options to bring up the level of our policing department.
Hi, Tanya. Jason Frost, one of the board of director members here. My question is, I know your major initiative would be to improve safety, but as we look around Vallejo, especially the downtown area, we have a lot of abandoned buildings and a need for businesses to improve the economic development in this area. What would be your vision and plan for that?
So what is my, and I've said this before as I interviewed for our Housing Community Development Commission, which I sit on as the vice chair, is we have a lot of abandoned buildings, just as you stated, and the question is, where is our enforcement regarding those abandoned buildings? And additionally, no different than other cities, they actually have a fee or a fine for buildings staying vacant for a certain period of time. And the question is, why are they vacant, and why have we allowed them to be vacant, and why haven't we done the enforcing? And we do need to do those things. And while we're doing that work, again, working towards how many businesses would be willing to come currently today as we're working out safety, because that really is important. Our businesses, as I've talked to different businesses, one of our concerns, no different in other places, is theft and the different things that occur and employees being safe. And so the other question becomes, when we look from a budgetary perspective or grants available, how can we afford some type of security for our businesses who are there and not put that full cost on a business? Because small businesses, it's costly to run a small business. We have run, my husband and I have run a small business. And so how do we as a city that hasn't been able to provide the level of safety needed that we can bear some of the costs to help our businesses remain stable, remain safe in their spots?
Thank you, and just to add to that, I have been a business owner myself, and to your point, it's very costly. Any ideas on incentives or programs to create business development for small business owners in Vallejo?
Sure. So some of the things that I would like to really do is take the time to do what I call benchmarking, looking at some of other cities that have been in our similar situations to determine what types of incentives can we provide for businesses, such as waiving fees, such as helping with just getting starter costs, getting into a building and so forth and on. So there are many things that we can do. And what I like to say in the housing world, we put wraparound services around individuals who live in our developments. So what type of wraparound services can we put around our businesses? And using, also working with our Chamber of Commerce as well, here locally, working with EDC and for Solano County, as well as looking at what kinds of grants can we procure to assist our businesses to be stabilized and to attract businesses within our city.
Doctor, I have a question specifically about the former question, or about your answer. You spoke about enforcement, that enforcement needs to be supported. And what do you see as your role within the auspice of a city council position as it relates to a mayor and a city manager to support enforcement? So what are the challenges, or what is your role? Because I heard that we need to support it and that you suggest we support it, but what would you do specifically to enact enforcement?
So my role on any initiative or work as a really to collaborate with our mayor and really everyone on that dais, not just our mayor, but all of the other city council individuals. Our job is to give direction, if you will, to our city manager, who is responsible to give that direction to staff, and to have them, when we're talking about doing certain things, such, I'll use enforcement as an example, is what are our barriers, and how do we solve those barriers, and how do we begin to do that thing that we're supposed to be doing, and holding ourselves accountable to that work.
Thank you so much, Tanya. We do have, the Humane Society is here tabling. There's Linda Overton. Full disclosure, I'm volunteer treasurer on the Humane Society, and Linda is also on the board with me there. And just like with Glen Cove Community Association, we're all volunteers, by the way. And I also saw Dina Morrison, who's one of our board members for Glen Cove Community Association as well. So we are actually going to have people who want to ask the questions of the candidates. So I'll have you queue up, or maybe I'll run around with the microphone, but at first I want them all to introduce themselves. So let's see, I'll just start randomly here with Dwight, Mr. Dwight Monroe Jr. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Is this the 3-minute?
Yes.
Thank you. How you guys doing today? My name is Dwight Monroe Jr. and I'm running for Vallejo Mayor in this upcoming election, November 5th, 2024. Be on the lookout for ballots in the next couple weeks. October 7th, ballots will be available. I just had to say that because I got to get that in people's mind. We got to vote early and win early. Thank you. My name is Dwight Monroe Jr. again. I serve in various boards and commissions here in the city. Currently, I serve as the Vice Chair of the Economic Development Commission. I also serve on the Vallejo Police Chief Advisory Board. I'm the President of Angels of Heart nonprofit, and also the Vice President of the Vallejo Naval and Historic Museum. I'm also a member of the Executive Committee for the NAACP Vallejo branch as well. So I like to consider myself that candidate that really is in the community, that really has the pulse of the community and seeing what's really going on, because I'm really volunteering. I'm really committed to all the different boards that I serve on proudly. And I love Vallejo, quite honestly. I love living in here in Vallejo. I'm a small business owner. I run a business. It's called Dwight's Mobile Rate Service. I actually have quite a few Glen Cove customers all over. So I've got to see how big and beautiful Glen Cove is, and even some of these apartment complexes, you guys got views that's out of this world. So I truly love being out here in the Glen Cove area. I do know that some of you guys' main priorities, of course, is public safety, environmental issues, infrastructure issues, just economic development here in Glen Cove as well. So as your mayor, I look to inspire and encourage the rest of the city council that we can work together and create an ultimate goal, which is a safer, more beautiful city of Vallejo. And that's all of Vallejo, not just Glen Cove, or not just the Hidden Brook area or the downtown or the waterfront. But we got to make sure we got equal opportunity in the city of Vallejo. I'd like to leave you guys with, it's really a pleasure to meet you all. I hope I can stick around and greet all of you guys individually tonight. And I look forward to your great questions. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a front. People were looking for chairs. We have lots of chairs up here too. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Pippin Dew, and I'm a Bay Area native, and I have called Vallejo home for the last 20 years. I'm a mom, a graduate of the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, and a local businesswoman. As a councilwoman for 9 years, I gained experience in decision-making, policy development, and managing public resources. I am prioritizing public safety and community policing. As chair of the Public Safety Task Force and Policy Committee for the League of California Cities, I gained a deeper understanding of the industry, the laws governing it, and how communities are changing the way they keep communities safe. The police oversight and reform work began during my service, and I am committed to continuing that work while rebuilding a department that the community is proud of, and with officers that are honored to serve our community. As a self-employed realtor and president of the Solano Association of Realtors, I have expertise in housing issues, economic development, and real estate market dynamics. In the past year, I successfully facilitated partnerships to address housing challenges, securing stable housing opportunities for our unhoused population in Vallejo at no cost to the city's general fund, and securing $95,000 for first-time homebuyer grants. My work after Vallejo's bankruptcy and the COVID crisis has equipped me with financial management skills. I advocate for disciplined budgeting and expanding revenue sources to stabilize the city's finances. With my expertise as the governor's appointee to the San Francisco Bay Ferry and past president of the North Bay Division for Cal Cities, I have developed skills in advocating for regional and local interests, leveraging resources from state and federal governments. I am a strong advocate for workforce development, building pathways to jobs through educational institutions and partnerships with trade unions, which will be crucial in driving economic growth and job creation in Vallejo. Under my tenure, I successfully advocated for making youth a top-tier priority for the first time ever, creating a multitude of programs and opportunities for our kids and young adults that continue to this day. The last time I was here as a candidate was 2018, when I was running for my second term as a council member. I made the promise then to reopen the Glen Cove Fire Station, and I delivered on that promise. I am ready to hit the ground running and launch Vallejo to the next level as your next mayor. Thank you.
Good evening, brothers and sisters of Glen Cove, Vallejo, ladies and gentlemen, and then the sponsors of this event. Thank you very much for showing up for another community forum, which is really important in raising the awareness of everybody with the current issues and our concerns, dissatisfactions, and joys of living and working and leading a life in Vallejo. I stand here today not because I'm running for mayor mostly, but because I have a passion for living in Vallejo that started very unexpectedly back in 1987 when I was driving with 6 friends on a 4th of July weekend to come and spend time. One of them had a relative off of Six Flags or something, and we were just trying to get off the exit and drop him off there, and we all read the sign, Vallejo, in its own way. I had no idea at that time, 1987, that I would be living here, owning a home, being a part of this community, and being on boards and commissions, and enjoy the community and the special place that Vallejo is. So fast forward back to 2009, end of 2009, after I lost my wife to a long battle with cancer, sadly. She was the one who found this Victorian home on Sacramento Street next to City Park, 1875 Victorian home. And a couple of neighbors is all I knew. Jane Ferrier, who I always loved to think and thank, and Daryl, both are in their 80s and in their own caregiving. And they invited me to a couple of neighborhood watch meetings, which then led me to City Hall, Marty Brown, participatory budgeting, community gardens, Vallejo Museum, Police Advisory Board, School District Budget Advisory, local neighborhood watch groups, Art Walk, Farmers Market. Got to know a lot of people through the activism and being at City Hall and various events, parades, and festivals. So another fast forward, 5 to 12 years later, I ended up serving on many boards and commissions. Most of you might know. The list is a little more than normal. I'll be happy to share them with you. And looking at the budget crisis, the turnover of employees, managers, police chiefs, interim chiefs, all the other issues that is dogging our city, I feel that the priorities of the people have to be unitedly by the council, have to be addressed to think of realistic solutions. Sound bites are always good. Website, transparency, accountability always sounds good, but in real, what has been done? So that's where I would like to focus if you choose me to be your next mayor. Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh, one announcement. The food truck, by the way, is ready, and Adriana Fuentes is one of our board members. She just arrived as well. But yes, go ahead, Andrea. You got 3 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you all. It's good to see everyone. My name is Andrea Source. I, too, am a candidate for mayor of Vallejo, and I'm running for mayor because the status quo in Vallejo is not working, and we need change. I have spent my entire career in public service. I started out in K-12 education. I served in the Peace Corps in Honduras and El Salvador, which is where I met my husband, and I managed nonprofit programs. First after-school programming for young people, and then economic empowerment programming for refugees and immigrants. And after moving around a bit, my husband and I found Vallejo, and we just fell in love with this community. I got a job teaching economics at Diablo Valley College, which is my current role as an economics professor. I have gotten my master's in public administration, and I teach economics to a group of students. We have a 100% acceptance rate to everyone, and I teach it with a public policy and a justice lens. And after we bought our house here in Glen Cove, it's nice, it's interesting to be on this side of the table for once, but after buying our house, I started getting involved in the community. I volunteered with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, got my counselor certification. I coached a Girls on the Run team at Pennycook Elementary. I started an ACLU chapter here in Vallejo because I had met some people who were facing injustices, and just always, I think, believed in using my voice to try and uplift and help those that need assistance, and try to use my privilege to help folks get access. I also advocated for, as part of that ACLU chapter, the creation of a new commission here in Vallejo, the Surveillance Advisory Board, which works with the Vallejo Police Department to basically monitor and ensure transparency in the surveillance technologies that are used. So things like license plate readers, our new gunshot detection, robots, drones, and things like that. And I've been the chair of that commission for the past year. I became a vocal speaker at council meetings. Some of you may have seen me there. And I think it just became clear after many years of work here that our beautiful city was being mismanaged and that nothing was going to change unless we changed our leadership. And so it was a slow build. I realized I was in a position to serve. I have no interest in building a career in politics. I think I have something to give, because we need to break the cycle of toxic politics in Vallejo. And that's going to mean taking a bit of a leap, making a bit of a change, and electing somebody new that isn't the same old special interests. And I think that on a broad level, the issues we're facing in Vallejo are due to a lack of accountability. And I think somebody that has a background in public service, that isn't beholden to any special interest, is the right person to have at the helm to ensure that we set measurable goals, make measurable progress, and hold folks accountable if we're not making progress. Because fundamentally, I believe we need our government to be responsive to the needs of our community and inclusive of our entire community. So thank you all.
Thank you all. All right, the food truck is called TriDAT, DAT, and now we're going to open it up for the public open forum. Yes, Christine?
Quick question. 2 minutes for answers. How long for questions?
2 minutes. Yeah.
2 minutes?
Yeah, I don't think the questions should last 2 minutes. But
Mine might.
all right. Well, hopefully not much more, but okay. I think we can proceed then. It's a public comment.
All right. I wanted to take advantage of this open forum to address everybody in this room today, as well as the panel. You don't need to respond if you don't want to. But there's something really affecting our neighborhood. My name is Lisa, by the way, Lisa English. I live on North Regatta with my husband and 2 very spoiled cats. And nearly a year ago, the homeowner across the street from us decided he had a beef with one of his closer neighbors and put up some very illegal structures and offensive signage in the front yard. Anyone driving on North Regatta can see this. And they're flapping tarps, they're swaying in the wind, they're downright dangerous. And he has an extremely overgrown front yard, but that's the least of it, to tell you the truth. I've been trying since the first of the year to get some action from the city of Vallejo, but after dozens of emails and getting punted from one department to the other, there is still nothing being done. And for those of you that might be thinking, have you just tried to talk to this guy? Well, he's incredibly hostile. He is not a neighbor to anybody. Over here then. Sorry, Andrea. Anyway, anybody here that has sat on the city council or has even been to a city council meeting in the last year probably knows who this guy is and his personal brand of hostility that he spreads. I'm currently trying to get the neighborhood mobilized for one simple reason. It doesn't affect just me across the street or the people that live on each side of his home. He is dragging down home values in this whole neighborhood by those structures and the signage that the city will do nothing about. I just, you know, if you want to go retire somewhere, maybe you have to suddenly sell your home. Can you imagine being a home buyer, driving down North Regatta to an open house and seeing this? I mean, would you want to buy that house? I can't imagine it, and if you did, it's going to be for a lot lower price than the person was asking, I can guarantee you that. We pay extra taxes to live in Glen Cove. We deserve to have the home values that, you know, we've been striving for years and keeping up our own homes. And because one person doesn't want to do it, I would, you know, very much like to get everybody engaged in this. I have a sign-up sheet over here, and if you just want to leave an email, we'll be glad to get you involved, and maybe you have some ideas of how we could go forward with this.
All right.
And if anybody wants to address this, that would be great.
Thank you. Anybody want to address that directly?
I wouldn't mind speaking with you later to get more detail and clarity, if you don't mind. Thank you.
I'll be here till the end of the meeting.
Go ahead, sir. Unless anyone else, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you by chance report it to the neighborhood law program?
Law program?
Neighborhood law program.
I'm not aware of that, but I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, for sure. So I actually, the first time I ran for council was because of a very dangerous situation right across the street from my own house. I lived over right on the other side of 780, and there were people that had moved into a house that had been abandoned, and the property owners thought it had foreclosed, but it hadn't. And when you have a property with property owners that can't say that people aren't there illegally, like, you need the property owner to tell the police they're trespassing, otherwise they can't do anything about it. So for 2 years I had these individuals that were on probation, suspected of traffic, drug dealing, tax fraud, all kinds of other things, known to carry firearms, and had cameras installed on the roof of their house. I was the very first person to refer a property to the neighborhood law program, and it was a longer process, but eventually they were able to get them out, and the house then sold to a nice young family, so that was lovely. Sorry for your challenges.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to the attention of all the community and also all of us. First of all, I would like to say that I would like to know both sides of the story, not knowing some parts of it. Secondly, whether I get chosen as mayor or not, or even before, I would love to connect you with the good resources I have developed in the city and county to see how that can be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, where this is something that our board has been aware of for a while as well. And I think, you know, I mentioned earlier that a lot of the issues we're facing are because of a lack of accountability, and I think we've gotten away from our government being able to provide basic services, and in particular being responsive. So that's something that I'm very keenly aware of, and that I'm going to prioritize, is that a citizen of Vallejo shouldn't be felt like they have to go through all of this alone. They should be able to contact their city government and get a response. And one of the ideas that I'm excited to pilot and hopefully implement is a neighborhood service coordinator program. This is something that I've met with some people that did this in Oakland, and it was very successful. And what that is designating representatives for different neighborhoods to be liaisons with the city, so that when residents have concerns, they can take it to that person, and that person is able to then get it to the right department, whether it's public works or code enforcement, or whether it's PD or fire or wherever, and get reliable information and basically serve as that middle person to ensure that there's follow through. And there would be meetings for those service coordinators regularly with staff or with council to follow up on those issues, so that the residents aren't just left in the dark trying to deal with this and follow up. I know we've had those issues here in Glen Cove, even with our landscape management district, trying to get time with city staff. Having a point person or a structure so that there are coordinators that can ensure that follow up and follow through is something that I think is really important, to have that responsiveness that you need to be able to deal with the situation, at least to get good information and have some support.
Thank you.
Thank you all. You have one question? You have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm just waiting. And quite a diverse and talented group here, so I'll try and get you a difficult question, but a double header. My name is Woody Shiflett, Dr. Woody Shiflett, technically, but I'm a 19-year resident here in Glen Cove. Semi-retired, I run a small consulting LLC in the renewable energy area. My question, some of you serve the city government, some have not. To that first segment, why were you unable to do more with respect to police understaffing and misbehaviors, and why you're not able to address the serious unhoused problems that threatens family-safe zones? Now, what do you propose to do differently as mayor that you could not do before? And to the second segment, and you'll know who you are, what will you do differently about police understaffing and misbehaviors, as well as addressing the serious unhoused problems? Since you don't know the ropes and you have a learning curve, you have a challenge. So again, how will you handle that?
Thank you.
I think I was the first group, since I'm the only one that has served on council previously. Like I said, the reason I ran for council the first time was because of that dangerous situation in my own neighborhood. And we were in bankruptcy, just coming out of bankruptcy when I first experienced that situation. And the house was raided on a monthly basis, and I got to see different levels of law enforcement. And they would come over and say, hey, there's warrants for their arrest. Can you call 911 when you see them? And sometimes I would call and I would not get a response at all. Started understanding how limited our resources were. We only had 78 officers at the time, which, by the way, now we have 71. That was my top priority, was public safety. And so coming in, we had to be very, when I got elected, we had to be very focused and disciplined with our spending. And by doing that, we got to a point where we had 137 officers, and response times were appropriate. And then we had COVID, and immediately a $12 million budget deficit, and so many other things that were coming to the surface that was the reason why we initiated all of the police reform work. As things were going sideways because of COVID and everything else that was going on, I kept thinking we would get back to that discipline, prioritizing and spending that we had done when we first got out of bankruptcy. And I realized in 2021 that wasn't happening, and that's why I made the decision to run for mayor then, because I know what it took before, and I know we can do it again. With the unhoused population, I will say, I know I got 30 seconds, so I'm just going to share one thing that I've done since I've been off of council. I turned out last year. I connected a private property owner with the county directly, and just over the last year, they have moved over 100 individuals out of encampments and into stable housing, and have provided full wraparound services. 20% of them have successfully transitioned into independent living, and none of that costs the city anything. Bringing solutions like that is what I intend to do with mayor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question, Dr. Woody. So I think I could go tackle the second part of the question, if that's all right with you, and it was regarding police shortages and how are we going to address these things. One of the main things that you will hear me consistently talk about is public safety, and also how we really need to urgently move and get this police department built as fast as possible, because it's one of the main things that's stopping retention and recruitment here in the city of Vallejo, which is ultimately causing demise in all these different areas that we're facing challenges in, like the sideshows, like the the burglaries, the murders. Right now we're up to about 18 murders in the city of Vallejo, and I live in an area where it's actually it's been very high value of crime right now. I live on Kentucky and Napa, the downtown area. So what we really got to do is make sure we get this police department built, and we need a collective team. As mayor for the next 4 to 8 years, you will have my word. I will be relentless when it comes to service Vallejo and making sure that the ultimate goal in the forefront future right now is making sure we stabilize our force, but also putting a lot of greater detail into code enforcement, because that's how we're going to actually start getting some of these fines and some of these buildings up to code and renovated, or either sold, is by putting pressure via code enforcement. So the main way we do that is bolstering up our staff, actually giving these new officers that are looking to be officers an option, a great option, because what I've been telling people, and sadly today is the last day of the A's, but why would you want to play for the A's when you can play for the Giants? You know what I mean? You can go to a different facility and have a great facility, great bathrooms, showers. There's OSHA. OSHA has been contacted recently regarding simple bathrooms. So we really got to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Since I haven't served in the government except for like a couple of days in the 2022 federal elections, I would like to take a few seconds to thank and acknowledge the presence of some inspiring leaders here from your area, starting with my finance guru in Vallejo, J.D. Miller, followed by Tina Miller, who has served as our past president and past chair of the Sister City Commission. I would love to also acknowledge Elissa Shank Stewart, the current chair of the Vallejo Sister City Commission, and also Ward Stewart, who has been a constant friend of the Sister Cities project, and Valerie, who served with me for 4 years with the Police Commission back when Chief Bideau and Chief Williams were serving. And lastly, I was happy to see the representatives of the Humane Society. We have a project ongoing with a local Vallejo business person, and also Cultivate Community. Paula, glad to see her. I was associated from the beginning. As far as the second part of the question, what I learned and what I believe, sadly, it sounds bitter, but it's a truth that a lot of my friends in the community share, and that is the police department seem to continue to speak the same semi-broken record of not enough staff, not enough money, not enough staff, not enough money. 20 years, 3 mayors later, I don't see any major shift to help the people and the public, and I'm very concerned. There are alternatives and there are creative solutions that we can think of with the help of the community if they listen first and if they really enforce and follow. So thank you.
So I really appreciate this question. I think we know that we need change in Vallejo. I haven't met a single person since running that is happy with how the city is run. And in doing that, we have to do things differently. You asked about the learning curve. That's a really valid question. And I think one of the reasons that I decided to run is because I felt that I would bring that change and fresh perspective to challenge the status quo, but that I also have the experience and the technical skills to get things done and hit the ground running on day one. I have a master's in public administration. I teach economics. I deal with these issues every day. I chair a city commission. I've managed programs and written grants and managed people and served with diverse communities and brought people together my whole career. So I'm ready to go. And I think we do need to break this cycle if we want to see change. One of the things that I teach and know from public policy experience is that there's an implementation lag and kind of a results lag. When bad policies are made, we typically see the fallout for years and years later. And I want to be very clear that the situation that we're dealing with now in Vallejo is a result of bad decisions and failures to act and failures to deal with problems in the past. We've known about the problems in the Vallejo Police Department since, at least 2012. 6 people were killed in a single year. And, the badge vending came out. We all know here that, nobody's going to want to work in an environment where that's tolerated. And because nobody was held accountable, the reputation of our department is now toxic, and we can't attract and retain good officers. And the good officers that we do have that are out there trying to do their jobs, they don't have backup or support or community trust. So we have to get down to business. We've got to reform. We've got to rebuild the reputation of the department and rebuild trust so that we can staff up, so that we can deliver public safety. And I think that starts with taking responsibility for the problem. And the same thing with the unhoused. I'm going to run out of time, but the problem we're dealing with now, there's been so much waste. There's been so much mismanagement. And the escalating problem that we've been seeing over the past couple years is because we didn't have leaders in place who took charge of the situation, who looked to our neighboring cities, found best practices, and implemented them and held people accountable for delivering those results.
Thank you. Sorry, it's a little loose.
Okay, you can hear me anyway.
Actually, no, people were streaming, so it really would help if you speak close to the microphone, please.
Okay. My name is Rod Smith. I've been a Vallejo resident for 30 years. I came here from Richmond Police Department. I was there for 30 years. Concerning the police department, I just read just tonight that we are looking for a black police chief. Is that right? No? That's what, well, okay, then I'm wrong. Okay, but anyway, what I was going to say, and I'm glad you guys said that you're not looking for a black police chief, because I certainly hope that you're looking for the best qualified police chief, whether it's male, female, black, white, green, or blue. Okay? And as far as the sideshows go, I don't know if the city has a ordinance against sideshows, but if they don't, they should implement one. And every time the cops get a sideshow, they get down there, they close off the streets, everybody that's watching it gets a ticket, everybody's car gets impounded for 30 days. That will put a hurt on it. And I hope one of you think mayor. Oh wait, one of you will make mayor.
Who wants to respond first?
Thank you. Two of the great ideas you suggested is pretty much what many friends of mine, neighbors, have always been bringing to their attention. And I wonder, even when we had the police cadet, police sergeant maybe, who became a mayor, served 4 years, could not sadly acknowledge a very simple truth. Yes or no? Was the badge bent or no? Did you know or no? And that made me sad, because I was also in touch with Captain Whitney, who served in the police advisory at that time, came as an advisor to help us with events and issues and questions and training. And we found out a few months later that because of his straight arrow defense of the whole department and the city, he had to lose his job, and it is very sad. So when things like that come up, the policy might be there in some form, but if it's not implemented, enforced rigorously, public safety is number one. Life and death injuries is more important than 30-day extension, towing or not towing. There are ways to do it, and some cities have done that in the past. There is no reason why our community and the police chief, thanks to a strong, committed mayor and council, can not implement that. I just want to spend a couple of seconds to acknowledge the presence of our, really, I'm very proud, and I'm so, many of our community, of our supervisor-elect for Solano County, Cassandra James. Thank you for being here to support us. Thank you.
So I really appreciate that question. I don't know where you went, but I appreciate the experience of many folks in our community who serve in law enforcement and other agencies, and I fortunately, I teach at Diablo Valley College, and I've spoken with many of my colleagues in our Administration of Justice program who were officers and chiefs in other cities about our public safety problem and the reputation of our department here in Vallejo. And I actually have spoken with some ex-Richmond officers, and there are some things that were done in Richmond to deal with the Richmond Cowboys and to deal with some of the misconduct that I'm excited to implement in Vallejo. Same thing with some things that were done in Oakland with the Rough Riders. So with respect to the chief search, what we may have been referring to is the fact that the community panel for the chief search did not have an African American representative on it, which is, given our history, completely unacceptable. So that's something, with limited time, I think we can all agree we need to get the best candidate for chief, but we need a process that includes those most impacted. And we need to do the process right. Especially after what happened to our last chief, Shawnee Williams, who was our first black chief in Vallejo, and left under very questionable circumstances, getting death threats. And he was trying to do great work. He was trying to do the needed work here. With respect to the sideshows, what I'm hearing from my colleagues and others in the community that are experienced in law enforcement, you're not going to stop car culture and stop sideshows altogether, but the way to stop them is to get there quick. And the way to get there quick is to staff up. And I think that comes back to the previous discussion of, we've got to take the reform seriously. We've got to get the right chief in place. We need a good leader who's going to have the respect of both the community and the officers, who is going to be fair and restore the reputation of the department and implement community policing. We've got to get reinforcements in the meantime from the sheriff and from CHP, which I'm calling the governor on day one of getting California Highway Patrol down Sonoma Boulevard. That's a state highway. And then while we have those reinforcements, that's when we can do the real reform and recruitment work, so we can recruit and retain good officers and get that response out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for that question. It was a great question, very passionate question, but we want to make sure we clarify the facts definitely. If the new police chief happens to be African American, then that would be proving that this is the best person qualified for the job at this time. But as Ms. Source clarified, there was a lack of diversity on that chief recruitment panel, and that needed to be addressed. And I actually put out a public statement to make awareness for it. And you can't please everybody. That's all I'll say. I'll leave that there. But regarding sideshows, I like to think of myself as a candidate who's leading by example. I've actually stopped a sideshow, but it was because I literally stepped out there and was just able to communicate with these young people and figure out what was the root, what was the cause, why were you doing a sideshow right here? I've lived on Kentucky and Napa for about 9 years now, and I've never seen a sideshow until that day. So it was very strange that 100 cars would just show up to this small intersection and take over. So, with compassion and respect, I walked out there and didn't get killed, thank God, and was able to get this crowd away from my house and just take care of that. But with my chief advisory board experience, on a monthly basis, we get to sit down with the chief of police and really figure out how they really deal with these issues. And I'll give you the great example of the gentleman who got attacked at Springs Road near McDonald's right there, and they ransacked the 7-Eleven. We got a report from Chief Todd that they were there in 6 minutes. But as you stated there, you want every car cited. That was the same attitude I have. But what I've learned is that's unrealistic, and officer safety is a real thing. When you're outnumbered 100 to 1, 100 to 2, we got to look at that and take account for that. And I don't want to make any excuses for them at all, because I got scolded for my response, but I'll leave that there and we can talk more about it, sir.
Thank you for the question, and I think the panel already addressed the first issue, that there was an oversight in the recruitment in the community panel that was evaluating the applicants, and that is being addressed now. As far as sideshow policy, we did create policy while I was on council. It is illegal to even be a participant watching. So even the people that are standing on the side watching can be arrested. And I go on ride-alongs regularly, so I can tell you from experience, when the sideshows happen, we have to get backed up, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time. And like, for example, one time we knew the sideshow was coming. We actually had a half-hour kind of headway heads up. And we called for backup from Napa, from American Canyon, Solano County Sheriff's, Cal Maritime. And we all went to go stage. As we were heading over to where we were going to stage, one of the ALPR cameras, the automatic license plate readers, went off on a stolen vehicle. And the officer was right there and shined a light on the driver, and the driver saw the officer and took off, going over 100 miles an hour on Sonoma Boulevard. And then they ended up, a woman in a minivan came out of an alley, and they crashed, and both of them spun. So then we all had to go over there to make sure everyone was, safe, wait for ambulances, wait for tow trucks, clear that scene, which took 45 minutes. By the time we staged and got to the sideshow, fully engaged, hundreds of vehicles and hundreds of participants. So it does, I would like to see a regional task force, because we know these sideshows are coming from all over, and it is hard when we push them out, when we don't have enough officers to arrest everybody and tow everybody on site, we push them out of town. And then, but we do capture evidence, so it'd be great to have a regional task force so we can say to other departments, hey, we know this vehicle is registered to this address to this person, can you go pick them up? We have evidence. And then also, Benicia has some interesting technology I'll share later because my time's up. Thank you.
Dina, did you have a question?
Hi, I'm not even sure where to start. I'm a real estate broker here. I live in Glen Cove. I think we have a gem of a neighborhood. But I have people that come to my open houses and they say, how come this street looks so crappy, but the house is so nice? And we have cars parked going in all different directions. We have cars that are not, out of registration. We have lawns, blah, blah. It's a code enforcement thing, and I know we have 3 code officers positions available. I'm just hoping that we can get some done. And then my other question is, we in Glen Cove are lucky because we have a gem. However, the rest of the Vallejo does not look like a gem. And what can we do to make this town look, can we have Caltrans come in and clean up garbage on the freeway at least? And vacant buildings. Admiral Callahan and Redwood. That purple building has been vandalized 2,000 times a week. There's homeless people. There's pizza delivery going on in there. Quote, pizza delivery, something else. But why is this not being taken care of? Why do we have vacant buildings that just stay vacant? I've lived here for 7 years. 7 years and going strong on the vacant buildings. That doesn't happen in Malibu. Doesn't happen in, a lot of other places. We have to change some things.
I'll go first. I agree. And yeah, we do have a gem. Vallejo's a gem. And it's a shame that it's disappointing and disheartening when you see our spaces not kept up and you see our government not delivering on what it should. And I think it comes back to that responsiveness and that accountability. And one of the things that I particularly as a taxpayer am tired of is excuses. Because we are paying taxes, and we're not getting services, and we're not getting progress, we're getting lip service. And for, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we've been told our roads are in disrepair. And you look at our budget every single year for the past 10 years, it's like $500,000 to road repair. They told us, you have to raise your own taxes if you want your roads repaired. And then we raised our own taxes, and now some of that money is going to backfill a housing project that has gone over budget and was mismanaged. So we need leaders who are going to stop just paying lip service to issues and actually get down to how do we make progress, track that progress, and be accountable to the community. So, I'm not going to have time to get through every point you mentioned, but the vacant buildings, we need a vacant property ordinance and we need to enforce it. Get your building up to code or sell. And we can bring in resources to help. We can bring in resources to help business owners. There's funding available for things like facade improvements or earthquake retrofitting or things like that. ADA accommodations. We can try to help folks, but if they're not willing to do that work, they need to sell because it's holding our entire community back. And we need to put this on a timeline. We need to track our progress. We need to, not having enough code enforcement officers doesn't give us an excuse to respond to nothing. We should still be responding to some things, even if we have to prioritize, and it's the job of our leaders to go to the community and say, these are the things we're prioritizing, and this is what we're doing, this is the plan, this is the timeline that we're using to get more folks. We need code enforcement. Put it in the budget. I like to say, show me your budget and I'll tell you your priorities. You look at the city of Vallejo's budget, you look at the amount of waste, and then you look at the lip service paid to stuff. We need our budget to match what we say matters.
Thank you so much for the question. The first thing I want to tackle is, making people aware that we have these Measure P funds now, and the city is putting them to use. Your first point was roads. We got the new Measure P funds, which some of these folks up here actually were against, but now they're seeing how fortunate we are to have these funds available, and we're able to actually do things with the city. We just got to learn how to start trusting our city government a little bit more and advocating, being responsive, welcoming all communities to the table so we can figure out what roads need help more efficiently. I don't hear too many complaints about Glen Cove roads compared to the rest of the city, but it's good to hear it and actually, be able to listen to you and take that into consideration as well, because you are a resident of Vallejo and you should be heard. The second thing, code enforcement is something that's on the rise. I believe the planning and division department head, she informed us yesterday there was last week, 4 out of 6 slots are filled right now, and of course they need to fill those other 2 slots, and I'll be your mayor that's definitely advocating this city manager to get every single staffing vacancy we have filled immediately. We need to start hiring some people. It's one of the main excuses that we run into over and over and over again. We have all these funds allocated for these positions, but we're not filling them. And that's what's actually stopping us from really proceeding and doing great things here in this community. Cleanliness. I like to think of myself as somebody who is a leader in the community when it comes down to cleaning. I've helped out with over 100 nonprofits doing cleanups here in the city of Vallejo, all over the city of Vallejo. And then the vacant buildings, we really got to make sure that our ordinance is strong, and stop with the favoritism, and make sure that everybody has the equal opportunity. And also, let's make it easier for these new owners and developers that want to come to Vallejo and actually have access to these properties. Thank you.
So streets and roads are a big challenge. It was fascinating to me to learn as I was on council how expensive it is to actually repave a road. Like 1 block, if you have to do the whole pavement, the whole job, like from going all the way down to the base, it's $1 million. It's ridiculous. Just to maintain the failing pavement condition index we have right now, it would be $23 million a year for the next 5 years. I'm really grateful that we were able to successfully pass Measure P. Thank you to the voters that did vote for that, because that will allow us to leverage those funds and actually improve our streets to the point where they reach a 70 pavement condition index. And once you reach that number, it is much cheaper to maintain. It's like slurry seals all over, and it's much cheaper. You don't have to go down to the base. You don't have to add all these layers and then roll it out. It's much cheaper. And so that's why I am in support of leveraging those funds to get our pavement condition index up to a 70. And Benicia is doing it right now as well. And they're using multiple layers of revenues to be able to accomplish those. So I've been watching that a bit and look forward to bringing that forward. With our abandoned vehicles, I always look at Richard Heibel's, because that is still today his pet project, and one that he brought to my attention many years ago. And we started talking about, wouldn't it be great if we just had a team of volunteers, because there's like 3,000 vehicles now listed on that list. And instead of having 4,000, oh my gosh, it's raising every week. Instead of having paid staff that cost us quite a bit of money, why don't we have volunteers go check that list so that when we send out paid staff, they're actually targeting the vehicles that are actually there right now. And then with regards to Caltrans, I just met with them last week. They're excited to have a mayor that is willing to communicate with them, collaborate with them, and have an MOU between Caltrans, CHP, the city, and our police department. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, important question. The first 4 to 5 years of participatory budgeting, that was one of the top participated or voted project, fix potholes. So would just randomly say, just for fun, call Pothole Vigilantes, David Marsteller and friends. They might come and bring their friends in the Public Works Department and help us out in a special way. Also during Cycle 5, I remember we brought the Public Works Department road division leaders, supervisors to come in and explain to all of us, both the delegates and the committee members and the public, how does the city approach with the budget they have, fixing 157 prioritized roads that need different levels of help, etc. So I don't fully remember some of the details, but what I felt and what I was asking them was why haven't we looked at some of our sister city countries like in Japan and in Korea? Both of our leaders have traveled. I didn't have a chance to do that yet, but they have come back with a couple of contacts of how things are done differently for a much lasting duration and less cost. And I know geography is different, our labor and our payments are all different, but learning some lessons from other sources that have been done cheaply and better and faster, and also listening to the people who constantly complain of problems with their vehicles damaged and torn. There are a few more things, but I'm sure I can talk about it in person. Thank you.
Any other questions for, Adriana?
Yeah.
Probably the last one.
And this is just to piggyback off of what was asked around.
Go ahead and put the microphone close to you so we can hear you. Yeah, because we're trying to stream, so people can hear you on the web.
So I just want to piggyback off of what was shared around the concern around public safety and sideshows and also road conditions, because those are two really important issues that residents here deal with on a daily basis. I know when there's sideshows happening outside my home, I feel like a prisoner, right? It's terrifying. So thinking about that, and I heard the long-term solutions, but I'm also wondering about short-term solutions where we can modify intersections that are really popular with sideshow folks and promote, just make it impossible for people to have a sideshow there. That seems like a good short-term solution that could be implemented without having to wait until the police department gets fixed, which we know is going to take a really long time. So I'm just curious to that end and thinking about how can we make our roads safer, how can we make our neighborhoods safer, what are our options and what do you all plan to do to address that?
Thank you so much for that question. Yes, public safety, you're going to hear me continue to talk about it. Dwight Monroe Jr., I'm going to continue to just advocate that we knock down that first domino, which is public safety. I know it's very dear to Glen Cove residents, especially regarding property value, as the first Miss English mentioned, so different things like that. Public safety, I just had my first daughter. She's 9, going on 9 months very soon. So public safety is definitely at the forefront of my mind. I live on Kentucky and Napa Street. I deal with the prostitution on a daily basis. I think about those young women every day and what they're going through. There's so many public safety crises going on in the city, and currently the only option we have is our police department. But there are things coming into place. There are measures coming into place. One point of discussion that we've been having at Chief Advisory Board meetings is the sheriff department coming in for about $9 million. They're working out the kinks of a contract, actually trying to get the finer details of what we're actually going to pay for. So the sheriff department helping out in higher density areas. As far as sideshow prevention, like I said, I'm somebody who's a little bit unorthodox with it. I will definitely, I'm your mayor that's really brave enough to just talk to people and be human and be respectful in these times of madness. But however, there are different safety measures that we can take as a city. I do see that the city is starting to install a lot of different traffic calming devices, but we need to step it up because those things are actually being destroyed and mocked at this point. So we need to come up with a better solution, a modern day solution that's really going to address the issue. And the only way that I can do that is working closely with the city manager and his staff and verifying what are the steps that we really need to take to make this city safer and actually execute that plan. Thank you.
Yeah, as was mentioned, they are building some intersection roundabouts to kind of block that in some areas, and I think they need to expand upon that. Also, there is Safe Street grants available through federal funds that look at complete streets and building, making the streets safe for pedestrians, for bicycles, but also looking at these kinds of things as well. And then I'm glad you asked the question because it lets me go back to what I was going to say earlier about the technology that Benicia has built. So you all know the little yellow dots in the middle of the road, they're called bot dots. Benicia has created a special kind of bot dot that if you just switch lanes, nothing happens, but if you're doing donuts over it, it slices your tire. They have them installed currently at Lake Herman and Industrial Road, and they've been very effective. They're working on a patent, and I would love for us to be a purchaser of that product. Thank you.
Thank you for the question that's on the minds of a lot of people in Vallejo. Living close to City Park, I hear this pretty much all the time, on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays especially. Sometimes even during the daytime. We thought it happens in the evenings when people are a little bit more focused on their dinners and family and resting or watching TV. But in my personal capacity, I think twice I managed to run so fast, jumping 4 or 5 steps at a time out of my house and take 2 pictures of license plates and turn them over to the authorities. I think it did something good, I hope. Secondly, our Neighborhood Watch worked, St. Louis Neighborhood Watch group. This fly wants to talk to also. We, over a period of 2 years, had Shawnee Williams, chief, come in and talk to us twice. Public Works, Melissa Tigbao, appear and answer some questions about plans that Pippin mentioned, something similar, roundabouts and things to deter. We managed to get earlier this year additional 2, 4, 6, maybe 8 stop signs, 1 more block farther, so that the children playing in the grounds and the park have a tiny bit more chance of vehicles slowing down to stop. That's a small accomplishment, but there is more to do. And I think if we don't adapt some of the other cities' lessons learned, special tools and devices available, and really enforce it very seriously, like an emergency. And I'm thinking of when we had the Napa fire, we had the dust, we were declared emergency locally for a few days, right? We can adopt something like that to attack this problem on an emergency basis and resolve it, hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, speaking with folks in law enforcement in other cities that have dealt with the sideshow problem, and yeah, the staffing up is the best response, and I think that gets to sort of a broader public safety strategy that I have, which is, I spoke with a former mayor of Oakland that was actually Ellie Harris, who was the mayor when Oakland had a weak mayor system, very similar to Vallejo's, and they were dealing with gun violence and homicides and things kind of similar to Vallejo. And what he did was he convened an interagency task force of law enforcement agencies, FBI, the County Highway Patrol, the sheriff, the local PD. In our case, we have Cal Maritime, Solano College PD. They actually convened that out of the mayor's office to coordinate response. And in our case, they were focused on gun violence. In our case, we would focus on increasing response times, human trafficking, and perhaps even sideshows. Because some of those sideshows happen on Sonoma Boulevard, which is a state highway. Some might happen in a sheriff jurisdiction, and some might happen near our colleges. And with respect to deterrence, it's difficult because you want to be careful of liability as well. If the city puts something on a road that is going to slash somebody's tire, and does slash somebody's tire, are we going to end up liable for that? And when we put the roundabouts, and the city has put some of those roundabouts, I've seen several of them in North Vallejo. I've actually heard reports of the sideshow deterrents not being able to fit a truck around the roundabout, so the truck actually, in order to make a left turn, the truck has to go the wrong way down the roundabout. So it creates a hazard. So not to say that we shouldn't explore sideshow deterrents, because we absolutely should, but we need to make sure it's smart policy, that we're not accidentally creating liability, which is just the last thing that we need. So I'm really concerned with getting reinforcements as soon as possible and just increasing those response times and doing that as quickly as possible.
You have one more question? Okay, we'll get one more question from the audience. Oh, it's you? Okay, well, actually, we know the participation, and some of the questions I had have been asked, so can you just queue up so I know how many we're talking about here?
Hello. My name is Kirk, longtime resident, first-time speaker. I wanted to thank you all for being up here, first of all, I appreciate it. My question to you is, as mayor, traditionally in the city of Vallejo, mayors have been handcuffed by the city manager. How are you going to work with the city manager and get things done as you propose?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the mayor does set the agenda, the council agenda. And also, the mayor is not limited to just the work that is within the city organization. So for example, I'm not even on council right now, and I met with Bay Area Council last week because they are looking at doing an intense study of the crime and the data causing the crime, data looking at what's causing crime in Oakland, and then looking at best practices and recommendations on how they can improve things. And so I met with them last week to find out how I can bring that study and that work here to Vallejo, and they're excited to work with me on that. So the mayor can do more things like that. Like, for example, I'm on a committee with Solano Transit Authority, and we are looking at potentially bringing passenger rail to Vallejo. And there are opportunities there to receive regional funding from MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, to do infrastructure for high-density residential transit-oriented development for our waterfront and the downtown. And these are all things that the mayor can do, and I'm already doing it even though I'm not in that seat. So there is opportunities beyond just, working with the city manager. The council does set the priorities, having intensive goal setting, including the community and the commissions to make sure that we are united on that goal, on those limited number of goals, so that we can actually accomplish something on those goals. Holding the city manager, who is one of 2 employees that we are overseeing, holding them accountable to those goals. So when we have budget sessions, and we should have 3-day budget sessions looking at all of the departments and all of the spending, making sure that we are prioritizing our budget to those key priorities and actually moving things forward. Thank you.
Really good question. I'm so glad someone asked, because this guy has come up many years during our 7 years, 8 years of PB, and all the other city council meetings I get to attend if there are really important budget issues or public safety issues or community issues. I go back maybe three city managers ago, when during a PB meeting in the city manager chambers, the official said at the time that, that blah, 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 our money, so, and then he wanted to complete the sentence, and I go like, no, please. Who hires the city managers? The public vote. Who hires the city manager, the city attorney? The city council. So it is not your money, as you say. It is the people's money. It's not our money as they put it. It's our money as we, the people. And then I go back to what I have watched, the interaction between the changing interim, temporary deputy city managers take 3 different styles. I feel when they say we give directions, of course they can't command like a military command, and it must be done by the time and day. But if the leaders, as a leader, as a mayor, and as council member complete, all of them, don't ask for a report back, whether this was complete or not, they're just letting it go. 30 to 50 items put on the agenda, and a whole bunch of other plethora of issues come up. And so there are things that could be done, but I think going forward, no matter who gets elected to the new council and then a new mayor, I would like to see, on behalf of all of us, a real strong accountability and report back, and I wouldn't call it punishment, but a penalty of sorts for not doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great question, and a lot of times people ask, why did you run for mayor instead of council? And I think a big part of that is because the mayor sets the culture and the agenda, and we need a culture of accountability. Accountability doesn't have to be a punitive thing or a negative thing. The way that I like to think about it is I like to think of the city council and the mayor as kind of the board of directors role of a company, and the city manager as the CEO. The most important thing that the mayor and council do is supervise the city manager and the CEO. And we have a professional city manager for a reason. There's a certain level of expertise, technical expertise that's needed to run a city. What the mayor and council should do is, if the city manager is doing dirt, if there are illegal acts, like when our city attorney's office destroyed evidence, if there's money that goes missing in a housing project, or if it comes out that somebody could have done something wrong, there were HR violations, and nothing's changing, the board of directors is to fire the CEO and get them out of there before they do more damage. And we have not seen that accountability in Vallejo. When you have a toxic culture and you don't have that management, then you lose your good staff and we end up in a vicious cycle. So the flip side of that, the transformation that I'd like to see in the mayor's role is I'd like to see a support. We need to have accountability. We need to have city managers that have performance metrics, that have objective, independent performance evaluations, set goals, and then the job of the mayor is to give them support. I see the mayor as the champion for the city, the external face and voice for the city, bringing in the needed resources, because we do have limited resources. Bringing in resources from the county, bringing in resources from the state, working with our state reps, our assembly member, and our state senator, working with our congressman, with the city manager, identifying, and the community, and the rest of council, identifying the priorities, figuring out what the city manager needs to execute on those priorities, and then going out and getting those resources and getting that support and being the champion for those causes in the community. I want to transform that role of the mayor to be that unifier working with the city manager to drive progress towards our goals.
Thank you so much for that question. So how I will work with this new city manager, Mr. Andrew Murray, who I've met on numerous times and seems like a great guy, quite honestly. Even his responsiveness to this last incident and holding himself accountable publicly like he did this past Tuesday was really admirable, actually. So I hope we do all share that feeling. But currently, and I don't want to call the mayor a liar, but Mayor McConnell actually said on Tuesday the mayor does not set the agenda right now. That's not happening. That is currently not happening. So he actually advocated that this next council and this next mayor does have that privilege to have more authority with what is going on the agenda. So I'm not sure who is all listening on Tuesday night, but he did state that to the public. Another way that I will work with the city manager is we need to share priorities. We need to make sure that we're on the same page. We're working towards the same things. Currently, in quote, his priorities right now is homelessness, code enforcement, hiring a police chief, and completing ongoing projects. That last one is very key. We always got so many different things going on, but we stop somewhere in the middle, or 75% or 80%. No, we need to finish the job. Let's execute the plan first, then we can move on to whatever else new challenges we have. Ms. Sorts, she keeps talking about how she's going to call the governor and do this and do that. If you think it was that easy, Pippin would have did it. It's not that easy. It couldn't be. Mr. Murray actually alluded to us all how city council and the mayor role works. You know, what I've seen with council, watching city council meetings since 2018 is council members and mayor, we're not educated fully on what the job is, and we need to be better trained and figure out how we can execute the job. So I encourage Mr. Murray to keep that same message of informing the new mayor and informing the new council. How do we really get the job done? Thank you.
Thank you all. On behalf of Glen Cove Community Association, I'd like to apologize for my pen slide that's been harassing you. But a more important thing, I also wanted to make sure I get in before the next question. We have become a Firewise community. That's a great thing. Hopefully Ralph will talk about that. We have handouts about what that means, and there's a QR code on this sandwich board over here. So I encourage everyone to look into that. That's very apropos to the safety of this community. Okay, next question.
Can you hear me?
You got to put it very close to you.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Karen Taylor. I'm a longtime resident of Vallejo. I'm looking for the next mayor that comes in to be a very powerful mayor and to put their feet on the ground and hit the beat with doing and resolving some of these problems. We've allowed Vallejo to get out of hand with all these homeless people taking over and destroying our buildings. We go out, we allow them to be in our town. They come, we pick up their garbage, we supply them with things like food and things like that. They're destroying our town with fires. These people are coming from other areas, Oakland, wherever. Why isn't it here in Glen Cove that I'm seeing the homeless problem that Vallejo is having? They're getting on our waterfront, setting up tents, and just having an oceanfront view with free lighting, and then once they don't have drugs or whatever, they're coming to steal and rob us and break into our cars and things like that. I'm looking for a mayor to step in, take charge, and be not just about words just for a few months, but to come in and to take it and then find out, where are these homeless people coming from? If other towns are not allowing them, why should we? Why can't we find out where they're coming from, send them back to where they came from? And as far as the driving with the donuts and things like that, we need to hold these people that are coming from other towns accountable. And then their first citation is whatever, the 30 days and this. Maybe we can start taking their license and then upping that fine and impounding those cars for about 3 months. And if they lose those cars, maybe possibly we can sell that through an auction through Vallejo, make some money back to get our streets fixed that they're destroying. So I care about Vallejo. I'm very passionate about it. I need a mayor that's going to come in with a kick-butt attitude and take back Vallejo. That's what I would love to see. I don't want to see my town destroyed. It hurts my heart to walk and go through our town, and then it's just sad. Please, if we're going to get it, I need a mayor that's going to be final.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that very touching question, complex question. Sometimes it's like parents having issues with their children and raising their children the right way, the safe way, and give them a good life is the most important thing in their lives. But sometimes situations, things come up and they are not able to, and it's that kind of a huge dilemma and an anxiety. I would like to approach that with two sides of the story part. I kind of changed my response in the last few seconds because at 11 o'clock I was watering my plants before the other things I had to do. And there was this homeless person with his dog collecting some plastic around my property next door. And his dog was doing his business on my plants, and I didn't mind. I waited for them to complete their task, and I went and talked to them. And my sign was there right on the corner, so he looked at me and asked me, so it looks like you're running for mayor? And I go like, yes sir, what's your name? And the dog was all over me, and I just enjoyed those few moments for a moment. Why I'm sharing this is, this is being observed and experienced by most of you, including all my colleagues here. and connecting with activists who are currently and actively helping with this cause, with both a combination of empathy and some realistic answers. That's how I would like to look at. If anyone was close to homelessness at some point, you would probably understand the pain and anxiety and what they want to overcome. So I would say approach it with a humane attitude. It could be one of your friends, neighbors, relatives, but do take some firm action as to what you can help them with, connect them with the resources, and then team up with your neighbors. So maybe a collective response may be less deterring than what you were suggesting. Thank you.
So this is a tragic situation that we're in, and it's been building for some time. And the city's inability to deal with the problem, not only is it inhumane to the folks that are unhoused and actually trying to get on their feet, but it's also, as you mentioned, terrible for the quality of life of the residents that are around encampments or going into these places. And I do think we need to look at data, because there have been studies out of UCSF, there have been reports out of Cal Matters that have given a profile of what the unhoused look like in California, that about 40% of them are working, about 70 to 90% of them end up unhoused in a place where they became homeless, so they kind of stay local. And I think we need to get that data on Vallejo and be responsive to that. One of the other things that one of the studies mentioned was that there are a huge portion of folks that just $300 a month would actually be enough to get them off the street and into housing. So what we need to do is we need to, first of all, take swift action, because what we're doing is not working. I think we can all agree with that what the city has been doing for the past many years, not okay. We've got to figure out a way to provide a safe place for folks that are experiencing many of the same things that others are seeing. The folks that are working and trying to get by, they're victims of crime, they're victims of arson, they're victims of illegal dumping, they feel unsafe, they're having mental health and substance abuse issues, sometimes caused by that anxiety. We need to give those people a safe place to go. And so what's worked in other cities that I've talked about is a safe camping parking site, a designated spot where you put the sanitation, porta potties, maybe lockers if people need to store medication, mobile showers, dumpsters to get some of the sanitation issues taken care of, and then you bring in community service organizations that can kind of triage and get folks into housing from there. And then from there, you figure out, okay, who can go to that site safely and who needs additional support. If there are folks that are a danger to themselves or others, we've got to deal with that. But we need to know who those folks are and identify and deal with that, by knowing our population that we're serving.
Thank you for that wonderful and very passionate question, Ms. Karen. As you know, we both serve on the Chief Advisory Board, and I love your passion that you deliver every night that we meet. But like I said, it was the Community Democratic Club, they recently interviewed us, and they asked us 7 words to describe Vallejo, or describe how you will affect Vallejo, or something like that. And I said, I will relentlessly serve Vallejo, something like that. And I've really been just thinking about that and how I can be more impactful as not just a mayor, but a resident of the Vallejo community, because we owe it to ourselves, quite honestly. We got to start getting mean. We're allowing what other communities don't allow, and we've been putting up with it for so long that we're now conditioned to these conditions that is just insane. We have prostitution 5 minutes from our downtown. It wouldn't happen in Benicia. It wouldn't happen in American Canyon. They wouldn't allow it. So what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? That's one of the main questions that I ask myself. What are we doing, or what are we not doing that other cities are? I got Ms. Source again. She's mentioned this safe campaign site, or this safety site for the unhoused. And she brought up liability last time. That's a serious liability. One of the things that I've discovered when walking up to these encampments is how many drugs and guns and all sorts of dangerous materials that they have to harm themselves. So we're proposing, let's put them all together and make this a nice, safe place for everybody. But it's not. That's not the real reality of the world that we live in. So we got to start getting tougher on crime here. Stop glorifying this this crazy behavior that we got going on in the city. Stop being so nice to everybody. We can't be a sanctuary city forever. When are we going to take care of ourselves? Respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned earlier, even while I've been off council, I've already been working on this issue. I connected a private property owner with the county directly, and they've already moved 100 individuals off of the streets, out of encampments, and into safe housing, and have 20% of them have successfully transitioned into independent living. None of that costing the city anything, and we need to do more of that. But the fire I bring is beyond just this situation that we are living in today. The fire I bring is that we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to grow local industries. For example, I serve on the board of directors for the San Francisco Bay Ferry, and we have received over $120 million to go to a zero-emission system. 2 years ago, the technology didn't exist for a 100% hydrogen-fueled ferry, but we launched one in July. We weren't able to purchase that vessel here locally because the industry doesn't exist, but we have incredible resources on Mare Island. We have Mare Island dry docks, Moose Boats, who's building boats, Lynn Marine that is doing seawall building and other technologies, and also looking at how we can grow those industries and grow the clean tech industry, because that industry, the demand for that industry is incredible. The opportunity is right in front of us. We have the opportunity to seize that, and grow that hub locally. And we're already working to create jobs and build that workforce development. We had an open house on Thursday on Mare Island for the Working Waterfront Coalition, which is training folks into the maritime industry so they can obtain those jobs locally. That is how we bring the fire. That is how we really see our city change. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 second, I just want to make sure I make a couple more announcements too. So just to remind everyone, the food truck is here, and we have a minimum that they have to make, so hopefully you'll all, and hopefully she'll stick around after 8 o'clock if you want to get your food out there. Also, I want to remind everyone our website is glencovevallejo.com. We have a free email list, even if you're not a member, which I encourage you to become members. It's only $20 a year. I also want to send out a reminder before the evening's over that we are having an event, an end of summer event organized by our board at the Glen Cove Waterfront Park on October 6th from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is David. Proud to say I'm a Glen Cove resident, first-time homeowner, raising a family right here in Vallejo. And mentioned ferry. I work in downtown San Francisco. I love taking the ferry to work. I think it's a great alternative to being on the road. It's environmentally friendly. It's a relaxing ride. What I don't love is parking in the Vallejo-owned city lot. Over the course of 2 years, I want to share a quick little story. 7 car break-ins in 2 years. And I know I'm not alone for anybody else who parks in the city-owned lot. I think that's a ridiculous number. I understand that there's been a change in who the security vendor is, and that's been fine. I've called that number, I've called the prior number, I reported the first break-in to the police, the second one to the police, I stopped. Break-in number 7, they actually drilled a hole in my gas tank to take the gas out. I'm also not alone in that. And so now, I have a bit of self-help. So now instead of driving 5 minutes to the ferry, I'm crossing the bridge to Pleasant Hill, hopping on board, and taking a long ride. I think that's, it's emblematic. Now, again, property crime is not as big a deal as any other crime issues here. It certainly is a quality of life issue. And for a city like ours that has such a fantastic ferry available that others from the region want to use, I think this is a real problem. So I think it's emblematic of a crime and safety issue, and I'm curious what you all will do about that. I'll also, as a footnote, note one morning I was in a rush, forgot to pay my parking that day. And guess what? By the end of the day, somebody did leave me a ticket. So I know there's somebody in that lot monitoring it. They actually put a bit of a slap in the face after 7 break-ins and having to do anything. So I know there's folks monitoring that we're paying. We do pay, and we deserve better when it comes to that type of service.
I think we can all agree that's incredibly frustrating, and I'm really sorry to hear that, because nobody should be in the city and pay taxes in that city and not be safe to park their car and go to work. I do, for a second, I want to take a second to respond to the comments that were made about the safe camping and parking zone, because this is a best practice that has been done in many Bay Area cities to great success, and there's data to back it up. And the excuse about liability is the current excuse being made by our city attorney. Our council member, Mina Loera-Diaz, who's now the vice mayor, proposed a safe camping parking zone, and our city attorney flat out said no because of liability, ignoring the fact that this had been successful in many other cities. So what fire would I bring? I'm not taking no for an answer if something has worked elsewhere. It's not, can we do this, yes, no, okay. It's, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this happen? So let's not sell ourselves short and just stop trying. We have to push forward. With, see, now I shouldn't have gone back to the other question. With respect to the parking lot, it comes back to accountability. Who is responsible? We're paying for security. Who's paying for security? The city's contracting somebody to provide security. What are the metrics assigned to that contract? What's the patrol of the parking enforcement supposed to be? Is the city just paying to give tickets, or is there some expectation that there's going to be some security provided? We need to make sure that that contract's tight and that contractor's being held accountable. What is the city's responsibility? Is there a city breakdown happening that when tickets or citations are given, there's not follow-up? Then we need to fix that. But we need to look at the problem, not just make excuses and say we don't have the resources, but go, where is the breakdown here? Who is responsible for this? Because we're paying for it. You're paying for it through your taxes, and your taxes are going to that contractor, and your taxes are going to our police department and our code enforcement and all of our other departments. So where is the breakdown that that money isn't getting you the service that you're paying for? We need to get that taken care of as soon as possible.
Quite honestly, I'm going to stick to saying it strongly. It's a liability. I guess we like suing the city. You know, we like when lawsuits happen to the city. It's not something that we should be actually looking at a different goal in mind of stopping all this litigation that's happening and stop giving all these different avenues that people are going to start suing the city. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember vividly Project Roomkey. And guess who was involved in that? That was the city of Vallejo in a hotel here in the city of Vallejo, and 6 people died there. And, you know, the city want to be not liable for those things, but people died under their care. So we need to verify and make sure that these are the right and the safest steps for unhoused community members. And also it comes back to customer service. You know, when they built the Sacramento street housing, there was I went out there and polled people on Couch Street. Only 1 woman out of 10 people knew about the application and actually had the capability of signing up for that application. So let's do a better job of actually providing these resources for people instead of just throwing it out there and saying, here, oh, you missed your shot. We got to do better, guys, and let's demand it.
So I'll go back to the question about the parking garage. So first I want to share a resource for you. Solano Mobility, which is funded through Solano County, provides a Lyft rideshare first last mile program. So it's a 60 to 80% discount off of your Lyft fare to the ferry. So you don't have to park down there. I do also ride the ferry myself regularly to go to my board meetings, and I park in the ferry parking garage. And so I do get to hear regularly. Thankfully, I've been fortunate enough not to have my vehicle broken into or my gas siphoned. But I will say that with the change in the security, I have noticed that there is a car there regularly, always in the parking lot with their lights on, which we found out in Vallejo and shared with the nation the fact that having an officer or a security guard with their lights going reduces crime by 33%, just having them present. And so that is a best practice that our security teams now also implement regularly. But it is something we have to watch. Like, we want people to use our ferry. We used to have 1.1 million riders every year going through the ferry, and we're almost there, 96% during the week. So we're getting close. But we do want to make sure that everyone feels safe, and it does include increasing our police staffing as well to be able to respond to calls like that, so that when you call and report something, you actually have an officer show up, right? Like that's super important for our safety, for us to feel safe, and it's just not possible right now because we have 36 officers responding to, that's the total on patrol for the whole week, 7 days a week, 400 calls for service per day. Completely unacceptable. So that is the issue we have to fix to be able to have the service we need. And again, getting immediate staffing support so that we can do that. We need to look at that sheriff's contract to make sure that we can move forward and have an additional 12 officers on every single shift. That would really make a difference. Thank you.
So we will have 2 more questions, and I'd like to give you guys time for closing statements too, but please go on.
Thank you. I just want to give an unconventional answer. Maybe those breaking folks are waiting to continue to, not waiting, continuing to do what they were doing, harming property or vehicles, because the police building didn't occur over there, or some of the police vehicles and personnel are still there, not able to pay enough attention. But that was just a little fun remark, I think. But what I wanted to say was, in my observation, 20-21 years here in Vallejo, going to the ferry area, City Hall frequently. One time, my own car was tagged as parked in the red zone, right in front of the Vallejo Museum. And I looked at the front of the vehicle, the back of my vehicle. There was no marking, no red paint, no sign. So I took some pictures. That was a time when I had just a cell phone camera, new at the time. And then I took some pictures and I shared that with our police chief. What kind of contractors have you guys hired? Do you see any red zone here, marking on the sidewalk or a sign? Look at the vehicle in the front or the back. None of them got the citation. So about 3 to 5 months afterwards, when I contested it with pictures, I was lucky enough to meet the guy who signed the ticket. And I was able to show it to him, and they didn't have a response. Instead of acknowledging the mistake and helping me, their attitude was like, pay the fine and, that kind of a deal. So I didn't pay the fine, and I pursued further options, and I was able to get it dismissed. Lastly, I would say, specific to the ferry terminal parking, maybe the city had a consultant or some staff who were somewhat biased towards a specific vendor. I don't know. But maybe they have done a very average job so far, and they could do better. And there's a lot of ways to do that better with the city, good examples in our neighboring cities and county. Thank you.
Is that all 4? Sorry. Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
So the reality is, one of you will be my colleague on the dais. And what I'd like to know is, how we're going to all work together to achieve the mission and vision of the city with the values that we believe we hold as a city. And how are we going to build those values collectively amongst our community, and not just at the city level, but it takes into account where this city as a whole, the constituents, the most valuable asset that we have in our city is the human capital. And how are we going to do that work together? And I want to make a comment to something that Ms. Du commented to. And it is true that there's a lot of good work that's going to happen on the waterfront. But I've been at both of those events, and I want to remind us that out of the 25 students, only 2 were Vallejoans. And so the question is, when we are building, when we have contractors, and when we are talking about all the new green work that's going to come, and so forth and on, how do we ensure that there is first opportunities for individuals who live in our city, and how are we going to mandate that together?
Thank you so much for the question, Doctor. How we work together. Now, I've worked on several different boards and commissions in the past few years here, just being active in the community. I haven't had any complaints, so I don't foresee any complaints, quite honestly. I like to think of myself as a respectful person look at everything and all take all points of views into perspective when we're making these decisions. Of course, we're not making these decisions for ourselves or just our families, but the full the overall residency of the city of Vallejo. So we really need to make sure that we're not only thinking about ourselves or just our districts, of course being the mayor at large member of the community, but just making sure that we're respecting each other, being kind to each other, and unifying, even behind the scenes, team building exercises, whatever it may be. But we really need to be a council and a board that is going to be a unified board and really make sure that the execution is done when it comes down to vote on very serious matters, and make sure that the 4-3 vote is the majority in the good way and not the bad way. Maybe a 5-2 or maybe even 7-0. You know, it's really just that promise, that hope of unifying this board and making sure that we're all working together. Because actually 4-3, now that I'm thinking about it, that's horrible. We should be 7-0 every single thing, because our main focus should be the collective effort and overall well-being and safety of the city of Vallejo, and also unified in that collective effort. So Dr. Tanya, thank you so much for that question, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I am excited to bring back to our city council processes that we had in place before COVID. So we used to do team building together, where we would all get together, and it was open to the public, but we would sit down and all agree to the same ground rules. Assume good intent from your colleagues. Listen to understand, not to respond. And treat each other with respect. Like, those are the ground rules. And then you work on different exercises to help you understand each other better and build better relationships, so that as you then next day go into goal setting, you can work together to build a vision with your colleagues. But then also I want to bring in a new element, bringing in our committee chairs and vice chairs and community leaders from around the whole city, to make sure that we're building a vision that we're all united behind. And then making sure that we are going back out into the neighborhoods, like having a mayor that goes to different neighborhood meetings with the council member for that district, to share the work that we're doing, share the vision that we've created together, and hold each other accountable for working towards that vision and not getting set sideways because of whatever the loud issue is of the moment, right? Staying focused on the vision that we've set together. And then in regards to the Working Waterfront Coalition, I am not for sure that there was only 2. I know there was 2 for sure that came from Vallejo, but I hadn't heard that there were only 2. But it is a 10-week program that has 2 years worth of funding. And we are looking already at the next cohort. Currently it's 18 to 24. The next cohort will go into our high schools. I got to see a program at Oakland Unified School District where there was kids that I went into this classroom and they were working on AutoCAD. And the teacher has relationships with developers around the Bay Area, and the developers would come in and work with the kids to create these projects, and the kids got to see projects that they had a part in building. That's how we inspire our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ladiju. I really appreciate it. I think you will make a great, looking forward to the entire community kind of a person, people person, who will bring in some very higher level experience from working in San Francisco and then the field that you have worked and contributed. So I'm looking forward to it. Typically, the 18 years over my 21 that I have attended quite a few city council meetings, 75% of them, maybe or more, I have noticed a constant division between agendas supported, voted, and kind of progress advanced by a few council members who were paid by the Jumpstart or other rich donors or the police unions or other agendas per se. And that is really sad. So for me, The city priorities set by the entire city council through a highly well-paid consultant coordination and the time and effort they have spent with it, not matching the people's priorities most of the time or all the time is a big problem. So that is the first thing as any new mayor need to address that, including, for God's sake, address the State of the City address, present the State of the City address every January to the entire citizenry of Vallejo. They deserve it. We paid for you, we elected you, we deserve that. We don't need to go to a special event of sorts, pay money to get and hear parts of what it is. We need to have that back. We also need to have council member and mayoral office hours on a regular basis. Start humbly, once in a quarter, once in a month. Use one of those offices and start advancing and mingling and taking people's concerns seriously. Thank you.
I appreciate that question as well, because I think one of the things that motivated me to run is that we desperately need a culture change in how our city runs. We need transparency, we need accountability, we need integrity, we need inclusion. And that's going to mean the council working together. And I got to say, we've got a lot of issues in our city, but I see it in January. I see the possibility of the new council that's going to be seated in January, and I'm really excited. Because we're going to have folks that are responsive to the community. We're going to have folks that have public service experience, that haven't been bought by tons of special interests, that are going to be ready to get to work. And what's also exciting is that the council, everybody's going to be a little bit different. We all have different strengths and different skill sets and different things that we're going to bring, and that's what you need on a leadership board. Is you need to be like a football team. Everybody plays a different position. Everybody has different strengths. That's how you're effective, and then we extend that out to the rest of our city. Our greatest asset, like you said, is our people. We've got to bring folks in. We've got to include, and we've got to include folks who haven't been at the table. I actually want to come back to the police chief hiring process, because I was very alarmed by how the initial process went, and I'm actually not too happy with the new process, which was the council members are going to each select a list of folks, and then the city manager is going to select the panel. What about all the folks that don't personally know their council member? Where's their access? Where's their opportunity to be on this panel? Where's the outreach? Where's the inclusion of folks? So only people that the city council members know personally have access to be on this panel. That's the work that we have to do together, myself as mayor, with a bird's eye view of the whole city as the only at-large member of city council, looking at where the gaps are, who's being included, who's being excluded, are all the stakeholders at the table, who's not at the table, who's not participating, and how do we get to them. And then I'm working with every single other council member in their districts to make sure that we're out there, and I'm modeling that in my campaign by holding town halls, taping all my speeches, taping all my events, and posting them. So I'll continue that.
Thank you all so much. At this point, I'd like to just make some final announcements and then ask if you're all willing to hang out a bit to do your closing statements. So our membership table, I just want to remind those, especially who came late, is there with Ward and the map there. If you want to join the Glen Cove Community Association. We do have these really cool magnets with our logo and important numbers for Vallejo that you can have if for the asking. The food truck is outside. Hopefully they'll stick around. We also have people tabling here from the Humane Society at the North Bay with pictures of the available dogs and cats, the homeless dogs and cats in our area that are looking for homes. And of course the food co-op that has a lot of their information here as well. So don't be shy about stopping by these tables. Okay, so why don't we start backward order since I started with White for the intros. Andrew, do you want to do the first closing statement? How about 4 minutes each? Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone, and I actually want to continue what I was mentioning before about the culture change that I want to facilitate in City Hall. I'm running on transparency. I've taped every speech that I've given at our fundraisers. I held a 2-hour town hall at the library in the Joseph Room. I videotaped, I took questions from the community. I make sure on my website, every video from every forum we've ever had is posted. And that's the level of transparency and responsiveness that I'm going to have as mayor. My campaign slogan is leadership you can trust. And one of the reasons that I chose that slogan is because the majority of decisions that impact us are made in closed session when no one can be there. So I'll be as transparent as possible with everything that I do in open session. You'll have access. Everyone will be included and participate, and we'll be as responsive as we possibly can. But we also need leaders that we can trust behind closed doors to act in our best interest when we can't be in there. Because in closed session, that's when land transactions are decided. That's when North Mare Island, 147 acres of Mare Island were sold for $3 million with no requirement that that developer build anything. That's when 70-some odd acres of Blue Rock Springs were sold for $400,000 to a developer that, check the financials, has donated to candidates in the past and present. That's when labor contracts are negotiated. That's when, in the face of police accountability needs and police misconduct, drug testing was taken out of the VPOA contract. So now, if an officer uses excessive force in the Vallejo Police Department, we can't drug test them. Because that happened in closed session. That's when legal issues are dealt with. That's when personnel issues are dealt with. That's when performance reviews happen of the city manager and the city attorney. That's when Greg Nyhoff, our former city manager, got his golden parachute to leave town. That's when Shawnee Williams got exited with no investigation into the threats that he received. These things matter, and as much as we can include and be open in open session, we need leaders that we can trust to do the right thing in closed session. And I would encourage everyone to think about where we are in the city, think about the bold change that we need to make, and take a little bit of a jump to leadership that you can trust. And what I'm offering, I'm an educator. I'm a Peace Corps volunteer, served in the Peace Corps, volunteered with survivors of violence, volunteered with asylum seekers. I teach economics, I have a degree in public policy. I haven't taken any money from developers or PACs or anybody like that. Look at my resume and my track record. Yeah, I'm new to this, but I'm frustrated like you all. I want to see change in this city, and I have something to contribute. I'm not looking to build a career in politics. I'm a tenured professor at a community college. I have the best job in the world. I love it. And it's flexible. It's going to allow me to be mayor and continue to teach. I'm going to be there every single day fighting for the people of our community, not any special interest or anybody else, but the people of Vallejo. I will be advocating for us up the chain. At the county level, at the state level, at the federal level, bringing resources to our community and fighting that fight that our leaders have been unable or unwilling to fight for far too long. And I'm going to do everything that I can to unblock and break the stagnation that we've seen, whether it's the public safety crisis or economic development or dealing with issues of homelessness, because I have that background and I have that heart to serve. And if you look at what I've done and the decisions that I made in my life, you can get an idea of the type of leader that I'll be, and you can make a decision of who you're going to trust when you have your ballot and when you vote, who you're going to trust in that position to bring our community together and drive us out of the rut we're in and get that needed change.
Robin, you want to go?
Thank you, Glen Cove Association and all of you for staying this extended time in the middle of whatever you're going to go back to at home. We appreciate it. I want to thank all my fellow candidates for running and stepping up and to present what we might be able to do or what we would like to do and what it's going to sound like, look like, feel like as potential mayors. I want to thank my very special friends that I mentioned earlier, JD and Tina Miller, Valerie from the Police Advisory Board, Mr. and Mrs. Stewart, and from the Cultivate community and the Humane Society folks. I just want to say, in a reverse order, and dropping off any traditional revision of so many things that we all talked about. Great questions, by the way. Do you guys all believe that if the 7 council members and the most of the communities in all the 6 districts are more involved and stepping up and united, do you think if we can do that in the next year or shorter or sooner, we can protect, preserve, and progress Vallejo for all of us? Do you believe that? Just think about it for a minute. Not only United Council with a new, prospective, younger, fresh minds, but also a more aware, participating community. I'm running for mayor because of some of the same dissatisfaction that past mayors or current mayor may not have accomplished. But I want to express my gratitude to all of the mayors, Mayor intensely, 16 years, twice 2-term mayor, and I had a chance to work with him on a few events and boards and commissions and privately. I think he brought some great things to the city, and when I just moved into Vallejo, I remember Mayor Davis was just being elected and went through. He faced bankruptcy and he had his own challenges to deal with and pull us out of bankruptcy. Then came in Bob Sampayan, our good friend, the community, and a more popular person, and a police sergeant in the past. But sadly, when he let the community down by simply supporting the outgoing or the disgraced city manager at the expense of the community, many of us were very disappointed. And he could have also, in some legal way, acknowledged the fact that he was aware of what was happening because his own friends in the police department had informed him. He had seen some of it, perhaps, that attitude maybe. There was that dissatisfaction. Then came our good friend, a great veteran, financial expert, and an incredible public servant of over 30 years, Mayor McConnell. And he came in under very duress circumstances when we were not wanting the other option we were all presented. And I think most of you know what it is and who it is. And so when he came in, took office, within a month or two, COVID came in. And then all the Zoom meetings and all the key personnel, the police, city managers, a lot of staff left. And there was a lot of turmoil to deal with. Imagine all of that kind of a challenge every day for someone like him, and even the council being divided. So it was really difficult, and I want to express my gratitude for him. I know he could have done better. Everybody can do better, right? We all can do better. We can have more money, we can have more satisfaction, more happiness, more friends, but we will continue to strive. And I just didn't want to forget to thank the past mayors and the current mayor for their service to the city. And if you choose me to be your next mayor, I will serve you with this, as my life depends on it every day. Thank you.
Thank you. I will correct some facts first. So North Mare Island, when we sold North Mare Island, we actually put in there several opportunities to claw back North Mare Island if they didn't perform in certain ways. One of those milestones is the Connolly Street project, which is rehabbing all of the coal sheds, converting the parking lot, half of the parking lot, to an outdoor amphitheater community event space, and then also converting, rehabbing all of Connolly Street, moving their headquarters into those office buildings, and then high-density housing at the termination of Connolly Street, as you are. And I just happened to be at City Hall last week when they came in with that roll of plans that they were submitting to the city to do that development. So I'm excited that that is moving forward. They also are submitting the specific plan that is going to have over 13,000 jobs and housing units in the long run. Phased development over time, and there are challenges that are going to have to be overcome, but it is moving forward. With Blue Rock Springs, I also want to share that yes, we sold it for $400,000. By the way, that was $100,000 more than the appraised value, but also we built into it back-end participation agreements. So as they entitle the property, we receive contributions from them. As they sell to the developer, we receive contributions and share in that revenue. As they build the individual units, we will again share in that revenue. And we did that because we know that as time goes on, that land and those values increase. And we wanted to make sure we captured the highest amount of revenue we could from that project. And by the way, drug testing still can happen in our police department. Officers are tested. I was honored to serve as your councilwoman for 9 years. I understand the unique challenges and opportunities our city faces. My vision for Vallejo is bold. I aim to attract new industries and expand existing industries that align with our community's strengths, ensuring we create not just jobs, but sustainable careers that uplift our residents. To achieve this, I'm committed to developing a skilled workforce tailored to these industries, providing education and training from cradle to career and beyond that empower our people to succeed in the evolving job market. But we can't just stop at job creation. Vallejo needs a transportation infrastructure that supports our growth, which is why I'm advocating for a multimodal, transit-oriented hub. This hub will serve as the backbone of high-density, mixed-use, transit-oriented development, transforming our waterfront and downtown into vibrant, thriving areas that connect our community and attract further investment throughout our city. We all know the challenges we face: widespread crime, lack of trust in law enforcement and the government, and too many competing priorities that our budget can't sustain. I know how to get us on track. We must make the hard decisions to get to sustainability swiftly and launch to the next level. Vallejo has incredible potential, and now is our time. I'm ready to hit the ground running, ensuring that we don't just grow but flourish in a way that benefits every resident. My experience, vision, and unwavering dedication to Vallejo are the keys to unlocking the city's full potential. As your next mayor, together we will create a safe, vibrant, thriving Vallejo for everyone. And I invite you to join me on September 30th at Castlewood Park on Hartwood Avenue, which is Monday from 5:30 to 6:30 if you'd like to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending tonight, and also thank you to the Glen Cove organization for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much. I'd like to start off my closing with a great quote from John Lewis. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? We are the voters that's going to take this city back. It's this year, it's right now, it's in a few days. October 7th, your ballots will be mailed out. They'll be ready to get dropped in the box as soon as October 8th, according to the state. So let's get ready, let's get energized, and let's vote Dwight Monroe Jr. for Vallejo Mayor 2024. Something I really want to focus on, honestly, it's been a lot said about education this, education that, and how education is going to bring us through all this. Currently, we have four people on council right now with masters and also 2 doctors. It's not doing us any justice. Right now, we really need a community person in that seat right now to really relay the message to the city manager what the real wants and needs of real Vallejoans are. And I'm talking about everyday Vallejoans. You know my slogan by now is boots on the ground. I'm working for your everyday Vallejoans, your seniors, your youth, your whoever it might be, the working class, the rich, the poor, the unhoused. We need to come together. We need to come together as a unified board and make sure that we're executing on the dais. I am the man to do that job. I'm going to come in with the right attitude, respectful, kind to all my colleagues, including city staff and including their executive head departments, so we can make sure we have the right relationships and we can make sure that we're actually on the same page and cohesively moving together. It's not on me, it's not on any other council member, it's just us as a collective, and it's us as community members as well. This is why great communities like Glen Cove has thrived for so long, because of this community base and what you guys provide to the city of Vallejo, so I thank you for that. Quite honestly, you know, I mentioned the education. I got a lot of respect for Ms. Dew, but people, quite honestly, they're done. They're done with people who have been elected. They want to see new blood in there. They want to see new results, new modern, innovative ways to think. And that's just that's just what I'm hearing with the community, quite honestly. We all should have one goal, and it's public safety. My number one goal, and the only goal I don't have 3, 4, 5, 6 platform things to talk to you guys about. We need to talk about one thing at a time, and that's public safety right now. We've been detracting and worrying about so many different things that we're not executing. They say if you got too many tasks, you're not focused. We need to focus in that sharp, tunnel vision on this situation, and then we can move on to the next domino. But the first domino that we need to take care of is public safety. That's how we're going to get better development, better education resources, more resources from our county and state. Actually being able to call the governor and maybe them not being scared of us or telling us, oh, we can't help you. Because we're consistently getting no as a community, and we're quite frankly tired of it. And I'm advocating that we get a community person in that seat so we can really deliver the message that all Vallejoans share. And some of us, we're in different classes, but I'm over there on Kentucky Street and Napa Street, and I see what's going on with the everyday Vallejoans and how it's hard to pay for gas and how you can barely afford lunch or whatever it may be, all the different challenges we face. But I'm going to leave you guys with this. Ballots will be out on October 7th. Do not forget it. They'll be at your door. Dwight Monroe Jr., I'm the number 2 slot in the ballot. And I'd love to have you guys vote and encouragement. Thank you, God. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Our Vice President, Ralph Mariscal, is at this door, and he has some handouts about Firewise. I encourage you to stop by and pick that up about public information. Again, visit our food truck or the food truck, and Humane Society and Food Co-op. Thank you all, and have a great night.